Well, tonight's program is called Keys to a New Life. How many of you have got a set of keys on you right at this moment? Yes, yeah, I usually do. I hate being anywhere without my keys, but my wife says to me, I'm not having you up the front because I have my keys on the outside, and as I walk I jingle and jangle. They're not up here. But have you ever had it where you got your set of keys, you think, oh yeah, that's for the car, that's for the house, that's for the post. What's this little key? And you sit and scratch your head trying to figure out, have you got one of those keys on your key ring that you can't quite remember what it's for? Well, tonight's program we're going to have a look at that key, because this key is definitely beyond your imagination of how it can help you in your walk with God. But before that, I've actually got a special guest tonight, all the way from Victoria. You know how I've been interviewing the Bible workers this morning? Well, this man is an old hand at Bible work. I'd like John to come up the front. I've known this man for over 20 years. The last time he actually stood in this church was at my wedding almost 15 years ago. Come up the front, John. Just grab a microphone. You got one? Fantastic. It's so wonderful. He rang up about, I think, on Wednesday and said, can I just pop by and stay with you, you and your lovely wife, Alma? And just last night, this morning, I was praying, and God said, I've got to bring John up the front because he's got something to share with you. Now, where were you born? Sorry, I can't quite get that out. Where were you born, John?
Good evening, everyone. And I was born at the Ballarat Base Hospital.
You got that on? Yep, just keep it nice and close.
Yeah, Ballarat Base Hospital.
So this man is a Victorian like I am, a Mexican, south of the border, as the New South Welshman would say. Have you been a Christian all your life, John?
I've been a strong believer since a little child, and I've been blessed because I've always regarded God as a friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when in your life did this become to a point where now you're basically fully working for God?
Well, you know, you meet some Christians, they can give you a definite date. Well, I can't do that, except...
Try this one here.
Except I knew that as a Christian, we have a responsibility for everyone else around us, and I've always had a caring for people.
Yeah.
And as I've learnt the truth through Bible study and reading literature, I've known that Christ is returning.
Yeah.
And part of our love to God goes through us out to other people, and we have a responsibility to work for the Lord.
Yeah, wow. I remember I actually stayed at John and Elma's place for a whole year when I did Bible work down in Ballarat so many years ago. And you've come a long way since then. I remember one of my jobs was, I think, on Tuesday night to actually cook the tea and then do the dishes. And I tried to do the dishes thoroughly. And once I saw this big glass, and I thought, oh, it needs to be cleaned. And I washed it up. And I remember John having this really horrible look on his face, says, you just washed that glass. I said, yes, I did. He says, do you know what it is? I said, it's a glass. He says, no, it's a beer glass. You never use detergent with it. And for me, you know, I just, I don't know those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's right.
And you've grown a lot since then as well. Yeah, I know you weren't drinking back then. It was just something that you had in the cupboard.
Well, Elma and I take the view that I come from a family, I'm the only really Christian in my family.
Yeah.
And like my brothers know my lifestyle and my commitment to God, but then I can't force my views onto them.
That's right. Now you've got something that God's put on your heart to share with us.
Okay.
Would you just like to share it with us?
All right. Well, Elma and I'll start. Elma prayed when her last son left home that God would use her, because Elma felt she'd have a lot of spare time. And over the period of a few weeks, we had conviction we had to sell our business and move and live in several towns where Seventh-day Adventists normally don't live.
Yeah.
And through this experience, I just want to share with you that it's taught Alma and I that where we live is very important to God.
Yeah.
And each town we've moved to, we've prayed, and really sought the Lord's leading exactly where we live, which house, which street.
So a lot of times you probably haven't, you settled down and you didn't really want to move, but then you felt God impress you to move, and so you decided, well, should I consider my comforts or should I consider what God wants me to do?
That's
and
right.
you've found, obviously, that following God is a much more exciting and rewarding life.
It makes life interesting.
Interesting.
Because the Lord uses you and you don't know what the next day is going to bring. But we know that God never leaves us nor forsakes us.
No.
And at the end of the day, it's a blessing for us and there's a blessing for someone else if you can help them.
Okay.
And only this last March, I went to work, I went into the shed and I felt we've got to sell our house.
Wow.
So we're in the process of moving again.
Wow.
It's only 4 kilometres down the road and we're going to rent a house this time.
Yeah.
And already the chap that owns the house has told us that he believes the Lord has sent us there.
Wow, that's amazing. So God convicted you to sell your house. The place you're moving to, the person who owns the house has convicted you to get that house.
Yes, and we're praying for them. Elma's specifically praying that we'll end up good friends and that they will see Christ in us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for that, John. Thanks for sharing that. Was there anything else? No, that's it. Okay. No, that's fine. That's the incredible thing about the Christian walk, is you wake up in the morning, you don't know what's actually going to happen for the day because God can lead you in most interesting paths. I want to start with a bit of an illustration. Who here would like to run a marathon? There's only one person who put their hand up. Marathon is a long, long way, isn't it? I just watched it on the Olympics. It was only about a month ago, wasn't it? And boy, those guys look tired. Imagine that you wanted to run a marathon. Well, probably the best thing to do is find someone who can train you to run a marathon. And you look in the newspaper and, oh, lo and behold, in the classifieds you see, if you want to become a marathon runner, come to such and such a place in the afternoon and we'll make you one. Wow, that sounds so good to be true. And so you jot down the phone number, the address, you turn up, and there's a whole group of people there. You think, wow, there's quite a few people here who want to become marathon runners. And so you turn up and they talk a little bit about marathon running, and then they say right at the end, who wants to be a marathon runner? And you stick your hand up, I do. They said, congratulations, you are now a marathon runner. We're going to write out a certificate for you that says you, Michael Kunz, are a marathon runner. There you go. Wow. What do I do now? I said, well, every week we've got a program where we have a pep talk, we have a look at a book a little bit about how to run marathons. Just make sure you're here and you'll be a marathon runner. So you come the next week, they have their pep talks and, oh, mate, this is fantastic. You're with other people who want to run marathons. It's really exciting. But after a few weeks, you ask, well, when are we going to run a marathon? And the coach, he looks at you and says, why do you want to run a marathon? You're already a marathon runner. You've got that certificate there. It says you're a marathon runner. Yeah, but aren't we supposed to run in marathons? He looks at you a little bit and says, oh, you're not one of those people who try to prove that you're a marathon runner by actually running a marathon, are you? No, I just want to run a marathon. Well, we do have a few people here who actually walk for half an hour a day, but they're not really that into it to prove to others they're a marathon runner. But I guess if you want to, there's one actually coming up. And you go, oh, good, I'm going to go along. So you turn up for the day, ready for the marathon. The bang of the gun goes, and you start running. Oh, it's really good. In fact, for the first half minute, you are in the lead. And then all of a sudden, the heart starts pumping. Boom, 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 boom. And the sweat starts pouring down. The muscles start seizing up. And half a kilometre down the track, you are sitting on your backside.